Time for a soccer down here, 1v1. We go down to South Georgia and Statesboro, and we catch up with friend of the network, Ian Cameron, the head coach of South Georgia Tormenta, to get kind of a look-see at the past season in USL League One and things going forward. Things very, very busy down there in Statesboro. Coach, thanks for hanging out for a 1v1.
Thanks for the opportunity to chat.
So, obviously, I know that there's only one team in USL League One that will have their season finished the way that they want, winning the last game of the year. But now that you've had some time to kind of digest what happened to Tormenta, starting out in a very tough league, right there at the edge of the playoffs, then there's the dip, and then there's the race to get in that comes up, 1 point short. Now that you've had some time to kind of digest everything from the season, what are some of your takeaways?
Well, look, we didn't, inevitably we didn't reach our individual goals as a group. So that's, there's no hiding from that fact. In a league of 12 teams, you'd hope to be in the top six, top four ideally, and then be challenging for the championship. Now, obviously, we reached that height last year. We firmly feel that this group that we had this year could have and possibly should have, but we fell short. So we've got to do a bit of a root and branch analysis as a coaching staff and as an organisation to kind of work out why we didn't achieve our goals. And then, the other part that's harder to do right now but has to be done is look back on the successes of the season, look back at the successful campaigns of individual players, of individual young guys, and make sure we cherish that and learn from it and so forth. So there needs to be a root and branch analysis of what happened this year, and we're in the midst of that right now.
And obviously, you mentioned root and branch when it comes to the forest that is USL League One, and I mean there were some folks that I think took their next steps when it came to their games, whether we're talking offensively or defensively. You had some folks get some accolades. I know it's not necessarily about the individual accolades on a weekly basis because it speaks of the collective and what it takes for those individuals to get those awards. But when you look at the growth of some of the players, obviously that's part and parcel to what you want to do. I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was nice to see some players continue to advance professionally in their skill sets as they want to get to those next levels.
Yeah, look, it's paramount. It's part of what we do. We are here to be a platform for young professionals to really get a bit longer in the tooth in terms of their experience in the professional realms, to learn, to be part of this community and grow sport in this area, which our guys continue to do, to provide our fans some exciting nights, some exciting performances, and then to really take their own journey forward. Now, it's tried and tested way that the best way to increase your individual potential is to do it as part of a collective. So that's, that goes without being said. But there's certain guys. I mean, I thought McQuelly was fantastic this year. He's such a good footballer. I think any team in the league would take Quell on their side, and I think every team in the league playing against him had to have a plan to stop him. And then two rookies, if we're to kind of highlight individual players that I thought had outstanding first years in different ways, was Nick Akoto at right back, and then Jackson Curry at left midfield. I think those guys. Jackson's 20 years old, hasn't played a ton of professional soccer in his career. First year in America, most of the guys that have come through the collegiate system, he was obviously absent from that. So his matriculation into this culture of soccer over here was a sharp one. And I thought he managed it really, really well. I'm very excited about his future. Nick Akoto, first year pro. I think again he'd be somebody who's on everybody's radar as somebody that you have to try to stop all the way from right back. I think Akoff at Omaha and the Shafur at Omaha, or Flanagan at Charlotte, other fullbacks that you have to accommodate for, and I think Nick's in that bracket. So those individual stories, it can't be lost. Are really excited for the future. They're really proud of some of the boys. There's a group of guys who've achieved a lot over the 2-year spell with us here at Tormenta over the last 2 seasons, and now it feels like we're turning the leaf, and it'll be a new dynamic next year, a new group, a high turnover, and we enter the next phase, the next chapter in Tormenta's history, which we're really excited about.
What's it like to see the light come on for a guy like that? For someone who's trying to get adjusted to life here in the States. Let's just take Jackson as an example.
Sure.
Light comes on. He's getting it. And what's it like for you and the staff and everyone there in the borough to sit there and say, okay, he's he's gotten through that initial stage of trying to get adjusted and figure out what's going on with himself and his section and being a part of a franchise. What's it like to see the light come on for somebody like that?
Well, I think our job as mentors, as we're stewards over these players in terms of the futures and their immediate future is to be calm for them, to try to anchor them back to the bigger picture. You get young guys coming into this environment and they're so keen to progress, so keen to have what they perceive as a statistically strong season, as what they visualize they need to be on a week-to-week basis and a day-to-day basis of training. So part of our job is to pump the brakes on that a little bit, see the bigger picture, and then just balance out the highs and the lows. And that's what our organisation, that's what coaches are supposed to do. That's what ownership and front office staff that help support these players, that's what we all can bring. We can be balancers and give perspective to these guys to just keep them on an even keel when they have the highs, when they have lows, and just bring them back to the kind of bigger picture, to the daily process and so forth. So that's where we come in. We also come in the discipline side in terms of providing accountability, and that can sometimes be off the field. So that can be accountability in terms of training habits or their attention to detail, pre-activation, and all the things that go to being trying to become part of a high performance environment. So that's our role. Our role is to inspire them, seduce them to what we're trying to do as a group, but also to just give them balance and perspective. And there's different times that we have to push the different piston. And I think with somebody like Jackson's he's got such a high growth mindset to take him as an individual. He's constantly trying to add something to his game and gets quite down on himself when he doesn't feel like he's where he perceives he needs to be on a week-to-week basis. But anchoring him back to the bigger picture is important for somebody of that, but it's much easier to do that with somebody who wants to work hard, who wants to do more than it is to try to promote and instigate that in somebody. So that's why guys like him have been, or people that we wanted to work with. Nick Akoto is somebody that's going through some growing pains as well. He's obviously suspended a few games this year, but he's such high potential. And as somebody who I think can really play at a high level at some point in his career. So our job, our responsibility is to instill in him and to demand of him certain aspects of positioning or discipline or professionalism that will carry him. So when he arrives with the tag of having been a Tormenta product, we help him arrive at his next juncture as the fullest, most complete pro possible, and that's part of our legacy to help these boys. So that's what these are always the things that we're looking for. We're just constantly watching them. Do they need grounded? Do they need elevated? How do we just keep them on a kind of linear path as they oscillate up and down in their emotional reactions? But how do we just keep them on that path? Sometimes it takes different guys at different moments of the season, and that's part of the thing that we enjoy doing the most.
Ian Cameron, head coach of South Georgia Tormenta, hanging out with us here for a Soccer Down Here 1v1. For someone who's never seen USL League One, whether it's in person, on your favorite device of choice or what have you, or even anecdotally, how tough is USL League One as a league?
Well, I think the toughness, if I bracketed this as a toughness, I think it could also be bracketed as a great advertisement of our league, and that would be the competitive balance across the league, right? So I think that's one of the great feathers that this league has in its cap in terms of top team playing the bottom team is not a foregone conclusion. The margins in our league are very tight. That's really presented itself evidently over the last 2 seasons, which is shown. You can't look at it, you can't project score lines every week. Obviously, there's some trends and so forth, but that competitive balance across the league is really cool. I think to make a good league, you want 2 ingredients. You want the absolute talent level to be really high, and then you want the competitive balance across the league to be really high. And those are the 2 things that get high fan engagement. Now, I think we've got some really good individual talent, but obviously not as much as the MLS or the Championship. That's natural. Some guys are vying to get there and will be there. But what our DNA is and what our magic potion is as a league is the competitive balance across the league. You don't have anybody who's astronomically spending money versus the bottom team, and you don't have anybody who's got this unbelievable location that nobody else can compete with. So you get really close, hard to predict outcomes, which is what sport's supposed to be. So that makes it really enjoyable, and it goes to the wire for different. I think going into the last game of the season, there was competition for the 6-7 playoff. There was competition to see who got in the top 2. Omaha still had to win their game to make sure they finished top and so forth. That's what you want. So I think that's the complication, the hard part of the league, but it's also the great advertisement of the league in the same sentence.
How have you and the coaching staff continued to grow as both coaches and individuals with another year under your belt as a head coach? How have you continued to grow as a head coach, and the staff continue to grow in their maturation process and their experience as coaches?
I think one of the biggest things you grow in is you make decisions at the start of the season. Of course, you can acquire players mid-season, okay, but it's not. Finances don't really allow for too much change. So you go in with a projection of what you're going to try and do in terms of personnel that you want in the building. And then but you're not constantly learning that, and you're not constantly able to change that. So you really that only comes as an integer once a year, as opposed to a fluid process that you can constantly learn from on a revolving cycle. It's a cyclical sport, so you make decisions at the start of the season that you're trying to climb this mountain, and you get all the equipment that you possibly think you need at the start of the season. You board it on your group, and then off you go and do it. And then halfway through the season, you realize, oh, here's something I needed, or here's something I have that I didn't think I had, or here's something I didn't know I needed. And, I think there's coaches in our league, like, I'll name a couple. Jeffries, for instance, right? Jeffries has got so much more experience and knowledge and understanding of the composition of a squad than I have. And there's no shortcut to that. But with every year our staff have went through, there's another thing that's flagged here and there that's like, oh, crap, we didn't fully think that through and all the permutations of it, and we've left ourselves short in a certain area. Finances dictate some of that. Resources dictate some of that. So there is a ceiling to what you can do. So you kind of filter that side out. But even at the end of this season, there's some obvious holes in our game model in terms of especially set pieces, both for and against this year, that we were poor on. And that one component, that one phase of the game was one of our downfalls. So we learned from that. We knew it about halfway through the season. And it's a lesson that you hope, okay, I've now learned that one and can't fall short on that before. Every year we've grown in our knowledge of what is required to maximize the potential that we have. And, I think when you don't quite reach your targets, that's the easiest year to analyze everything. But what we have to do, and the more counterintuitive part is, even though we didn't finish where we wanted to win the championship, there's still things we did right this year. There's still things about our team that we really enjoyed. We scored a lot of goals. We were creative. We're easy on the eye in most games. But there's components that we're short on, and we want to win the championship. So we want to be productive as well as aesthetically pleasing, and those things, are learning curves that we get now in this next iteration. We get to learn from that going into next season. But you only get these junctures, and you have to wait to rectify it until the following season, and that's what we're endeavoring to do right now.
What about the growth of Statesboro and East Central Georgia and I-16 as a community, as it continues to grow and mature and has another year under its belt when it comes to appreciating Tormenta, being the support that Tormenta needs? What's it been like to see that stage of the growth as well off the field with everything that's going on? The stadium is getting completed in more and more stages, and fan support and all these other kinds of things. What's it been like to see Statesboro grow for another year?
Well, I think the most obvious visual effect of that is watching our academy teams and their development, because now that we're competing in MLS Next, when we first made the jump into MLS Next as an organisation, we're punching way above our weight in terms of the economies of scale we're going up against. But now we're watching these teams compete in the USL Academy Cup and in the MLS Next and winning groups or being near the top of the leagues. And we were far off that a few years ago. But it's the work that Brad Nine and his full staff in the academy are doing. But we have a responsibility as a first team to have a drip down effect and raise the profile, raise the awareness, and filter through the whole organisation, the whole region, the potential of the talent here in this area. And I think the longer our first team, our pro team, has been in the community, the more and more used to us being here the community has become. At first it was like, oh, they're trying to do soccer here. Oh, now they are doing soccer here. They're doing pro soccer, not amateur soccer. Oh, wow, that team achieved a championship. in the smallest, what we are the smallest market in pro soccer. Maybe the smallest market in pro sports in America, but certainly pro soccer with the smallest market in the country. So it's that provides credibility. And when you have that credibility, you start turning some heads and you keep on growing the sport. And I think the community more and more sees us as an avenue of an awareness and a celebration of this region, as opposed to kind of this funky European-based sport. It's now something that they're proud of, and it's something that we get to showcase what this region, the talent in this region, the potential of this region can do, the same way as Georgia Southern does, the same way as SCAD does, the same way as different organisations in this area do in the business world. We are part of that fabric of this community, trying to elevate this region and show the potential and give a platform to talented young men, women, trying to go through the sport, trying to go into the business world. That's what we're here to do. And I think we're doing that more and more and getting more credibility in the community.
Because one of the things that I've always mentioned to Darren Van Tassel in our conversations is that every professional league needs a Green Bay Packers. And I would mention, and I mentioned to Darren, that Tormenta is the Green Bay of the U.S. soccer, element, whatever grouping you want to put into it. It's definitely the Green Bay of League One, definitely the Green Bay of USL, whether you're talking championship or League One. And you don't have to sit there and have the biggest house on the biggest side of the hill and be in the largest market to be successful. And I think that you're showing that through all of the different models that Tormenta has there in Statesboro, and everyone can sit there and go, yeah, okay, we don't have to be Dallas or Chicago or New York or LA. We can be a Statesboro, do things our way, and be just as successful and win championships in various levels.
Yeah, look, I think on an individual basis, everybody needs an identity of who they are and what they are. And I think the people that are most successful are the people that have the clearest identity, the clearest vision of who they want to be, that's most aligned with their actual attributes. You get disillusioned people and you get disillusioned organizations. And if we operated as a disillusioned organization and tried to replicate other teams and what they do in different scales, we wouldn't amount to much. So our leverage is to utilize the flexibility that we have in being a smaller organization to be more fluid in that manner, and then pick strategies that fit what we are, whether that's recruitment of players, whether that's how we project our social media, that's how we have a game day experience, that's how we run our academy. We just have to have the right solutions, learn from other organizations, steal good ideas, but then translate it to what's going to work for us. And this morning we had 2 different conversations with the front office about those very things. What is our strategy? What is our identity? Who do we want to be? How do we translate success to what we are, what we're capable of, and really stay in our circle of competence and circle of potential, and really be brilliant at that, and recognize what is our circle of competence and try to be excellent within that circle and not deviate too much from it. And that's what we're going to continue to do. Like of this year, didn't win a championship, but there'll be multiple players from our group who are given pro contracts, who are now going and apply their trade in the USL Championship. So that's success. We have to celebrate those things. Now, we are showing a way that you can win championships at the same time. It's not a one or the other. We're clearly focused on both goals, but we're not going to go and outspend ourselves. We're going to try to leverage up our academy, leverage up young guys who are hungry, who embrace who we are, and young women in our USLW team who embrace who we are, and keep on really enjoying the process of how we go about our business. And that's, as long as we keep on doing that, I imagine Tormenta brand will keep growing, and we'll be really proud of our efforts.
And last question for you, and thanks for hanging out for a 1v1. I can't let you go without the discussion about what happened in Greenville. Earlier this week, John Harkes has said that he is not going to renew his contract at the end of the calendar year and come on for a 6th season. When you look at John Harkes and what he has been able to do as a part of League One and in Greenville and as a piece of the larger picture, what do you think when I mention John Harkes to you and USL League One, what comes to mind?
Well, I can't share what comes to mind because John and I have I think we have a good bond. I think there's a lot of mutual respect there, but we've had some really hotly contested games.
Yes, you have, sir.
I wouldn't any other way, but through the course of this year, especially in the back end, we forged a greater and greater bond on a personal level, which was inviting. What comes to mind in terms of his legacy is two things. One is he, along with the people that work with him, has produced one of the best franchises in USL One history in terms of their consistency of achievement. You know, when you think of the gold standard in our league, on who, if you were to drop two names in a hat at the start of every season, who's going to be in the final, you would be far off saying, okay, Greenville will be there or thereabouts. And that's something that's a legacy he's brought and a level of consistency year upon year. And especially in the couple of periods in the last couple of years where they've had a wee stretch of games that haven't gone their way, and you're starting to question, are Greenville falling off their perch a little bit? He's shown an unbelievable resiliency to get the group back on track, to find a new way, which speaks volumes of his coaching. And then on the second thing that comes to mind is the credibility of USL One soccer that comes with the profile that Harksey has, his stature as a player, his stature as an embodiment of soccer in the United States. And to drop a new league in its infancy when credibility of the league is the biggest question. Are we going to get traction? Are people going to see this as a proper, legitimate league that deserves recognition, that should garner some sponsors, should garner interest from the greater soccer community? Dropping John Harkes into that instantly gives you like, wow, okay, there's a serious football operator who's applying his trade and running our organisation in that league. And that, I think, has really helped propel. I don't know if USL One Soccer would be in such a fruitful place as it is right now had we not had a guy with as big a profile as John coming into the league and helping launch it. So I think the owners should all be quite grateful that he saw the potential of the league and has given the league such 4 great years and been such a gold standard within it. And I think it's given the league a platform to go on to bigger and better things. And he should take a fair bit of credit for that, in my opinion.
Ian Cameron, head coach of South Georgia Tormenta down there in Statesboro, and he's watching the semifinals in USL League One like the rest of us, and it gave me a chance to kind of duck in the door and see what's going on down there in the borough. Coach, as always, it's great to catch up with you and have you pull back the curtain with one of the cool franchises that is going on in the in all of U.S. soccer and USL League One specifically. Thanks for hanging out for a 1v1. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Brilliant. Appreciate you.